Bro, to me, education is a scam. So this entire education system is like a prison of mediocrity. Every time students try and do something excellent, the jailers beat them down. Bro, if I have 3 million subscribers in 2 years, and then I tell you that I've got regrets in life, I would be an idiot. ये बहुत बड़ा गैप है because हम हिंदी बाय डिफॉल्ट मान के चलते हैं कि पूरे इंडिया को एक्सेस है, पूरी इंडिया समझती है, बट ये साउथ इंडिया नहीं समझती है ब्रो. फॉर अ पर्सन हु इज जस्ट गोइंग टू judge the content via thumbnails, we might come out as a channel that is, a little right leaning. But for a person who actually watches the video, they will know that Think School talks about only one thing, and that is data. Like I said, 4 to 5 years later, the platform will by default optimize for value, whereby the content creators who don't have a lot of stuff, they will just fade away. Then what will you do?
Hi everybody. Probably this is something that you must have heard in a lot of these videos for the last 2.5 years from this guy who's sitting right now in front of me, the co-founder of Think School, Ganesh Prasad. Ganesh, welcome to this particular podcast. We call it the Konversations Cafe Podcast Edition, and we try and get into the stories of people from different verticals, right? We try and understand the kind of people who are there who don't believe in the rut of education that we all have seen over the years, and that's something where you also fit in. You probably are one of the biggest voices right now who speak against it in India right now, and I'm not overshooting it when I'm saying it, because the kind of growth that you have shown in the last 2 years is phenomenal, and we are going to talk about that growth. We are going to talk about where you are right now, but we are going to talk about where it all started. I remember I started watching your videos when you had 5,000 subscribers, and probably the first video that I saw was the Marlboro one.
Yeah.
Right, and what I did was, I went back to all the other videos that you had. I rarely do that for any new creator that comes across. And what I found was, this immense amount of work that you have put in putting all those videos that were there. It was not the quantity that was speaking to you, it was the quality that was speaking to me. So I am going to, take a deep dive into your brain as to how you came up with all those, and I am going to understand this journey from you in this episode. So welcome once again to InsideIIM, Konversations Cafe Podcast Edition.
Thank you so much, bhai. Because you are one of the earliest subscribers, I don't get to say this to all of you guys, but then it really means a lot. It is only because of you guys that Think School has grown so much. And I often say this, that when we were the underrated channel with about 5,000 subscribers, it's people like you and him who actually trusted us, because of which today we are at 3 million. So thank you so much for all your love.
Lovely. So let's start with your own education. I said that you are one of the voices in India right now who talks about alternative education. So in your case, when did it all start? How was it for you while growing up? How did you see education to be?
Bro, to me, education is a scam. And I will tell you why. I come from a college called Pimpri Chinchwad College of Engineering. And it is by far the worst place to be if you're somebody who wants to pursue excellence. And I'll tell you why. So this entire education system is like a prison of mediocrity. And have you seen Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption में जब सारे prisoners जब prison में जाते हैं, they have multiple phases of feelings. जब वो पहली बार अंदर जाते हैं, they cannot accept that they are in prison. So they are in shock. After some time, they start having this conflict with themselves.
Right.
And after that, in the third phase, they get used to it. And that's when all the voices go down. And in the fourth phase, they get so institutionalized that they don't know what freedom feels like. Which is why you will see that there's a character who is actually relieved out of jail and then commits suicide. Yeah. To me, Indian education system is just like that jail, a jail of mediocrity, whereby every time students try and do something excellent, the jailers beat them down. In this case, these jailers are unfortunately professors. And that's what has been the case with me, whereby I was doing civil engineering. And in the very first year of engineering itself, I knew that this is not my cup of tea. And बहुत ही practical बात है that I told my HOD and all my teachers that, see, I will get you good grades, but let me go out and participate in debate competitions. Let me go out and participate in business presentation competitions because that's what I want to do. So I have to figure out in these 3 years what I want to do with life. And that's a big, big burden because I know that I'm going to be a terrible civil engineer. But you know what they said? 75% attendance. They said, हम attendance नहीं देंगे, आपको extra assignment करना पड़ेगा. And I've been insulted so many times that now, to some extent, I've become shameless. And all throughout that process, bro, it was very disturbing. और मुझे लगा कि यार, how are we not being taught about the market? How are we not being taught about business? And I feel business education is the best way to empower somebody. क्यों? क्योंकि इंडिया इतना बड़ा market है, 20 crores का market है, because the rest of them are struggling, but we've got 20 crore affluent people over here. It's a huge market. So we wanted to start something very meaningful by which we can break through those walls of mediocrity and give people a taste of greatness, which is why Think School's YouTube channel exists to give people world-class business education at less than the cost of a denim jeans. So that's the motto of Think School, and that's why I often keep saying Think School is all about just one thing. We want to put a dent in the Indian education system.
You know, this reminds me of this very interesting thing that I see among a lot of people, a lot of students. On one side, we have created an army of engineers, management students with the age-old education, with the age-old syllabus that is taught to them. And on the other hand, we are seeing things like ChatGPT, AI, just taking over and swarming the kind of learning that we have had for the last 5-10 years. In this kind of a scenario or situation, where do you think and how robust do you think our situation or system is right now to fight off these kind of challenges that are coming to us?
इंडिया में ना फिलहाल तो ये बोल नहीं सकते हैं कि यूट्यूब से कोई बहुत अच्छा पढ़ाई कर लेगा, तो स्कूल और कॉलेज तो जाना ही पड़ेगा. बट what they do outside of the college is what is going to matter, and our system is clearly not prepared for it. और Think School जैसे एक प्लेयर काफ़ी नहीं है इतने बड़े सिस्टम को फिक्स करने के लिए. We need millions of players who can come together and educate people about AI, and we need them at different level also. For example, Think School तो इंग्लिश में वीडियो बना रहा है, तो खान सर जो है हिंदी में वीडियो बना रहे हैं. तो ऐसे बहुत सारे क्रिएटर्स की ज़रूरत है, बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की ज़रूरत है. We are what 0.1% of the change that we want to bring. But there is a huge segment of the audience that requires access to education like this so that they can come up in life. And even then, our scope is very limited. For example, I've put out 200 YouTube videos. We've got 3 million subscribers. But in 3 million subscribers, mein se, how many people have actually watched the video and applied it somewhere? Barely 1%. And on the other side, there are also people who have watched our videos. And you know, abhi IIM ke interviews chal rahe the, right? So we got emails from a student of IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Calcutta that we cracked the interview of these IIMs because of your Think School videos, because they were out there discussing Think School videos with the interviewer. Because even the interviewer was following Think School and they were debating about Zerodha, about the geopolitics of the world and stuff like that. So there are students who just watch content and there are students who proactively use it for better applications than just watching and entertainment. So regardless of what we do in the online space, it's only that 0.1% of the proactive learners that will end up impacting and not the rest of them.
But this is something that you're doing with Think School right now when, you know, YouTube has boomed and, you know, things have gotten to a bigger scale. But I'm sure this was not the case when you were doing it as a project. What was that physical setup of Think School that was there and what were you guys doing back then?
So bro, सपना हमेशा टीचर बनने का था, to be very honest, और अभी भी सपना टीचर बनने का ही है. It's just that मैं क्लासरूम में जाके नहीं पढ़ा रहा हूँ, मैं कैमरा के सामने पढ़ा रहा हूँ. तो the dream was to teach design thinking, because back then I had done a course from IDEO about design thinking. तो मैंने पार्श को बोला, who's my co-founder, that you know, how would it feel to have a classroom like this and have 30 people brainstorming about ideas,
Right.
to maybe design the next Swiggy, to maybe design the next Zomato. I don't know मैं क्या सोच रहा था, but उसे design thinking सिखाते हैं और बहुत मजा आएगा. So turns out when we told people about the design thinking workshop, the first question was, what is design thinking, bro? And job देगा क्या मुझे? बोला bro, job तो नहीं देगा, but design thinking is X, Y, Z. They did not understand it. So we said, okay, let's switch to communication. So that's how Communication Masterclass, the course, was born. And then we told people that we'll teach you communication. Classroom अचानक से भर गया, bro. And there were suddenly 50 students in the classroom and we started teaching them.
And who are these students?
These students were my college mates because I was extremely popular in college. That's how this whole thing started. Then we said interview preparation, and the market expanded even further, and we got more students in. And that's when pandemic hit. And then we realized that this classroom model will not work. In between, we had this impression that this company has a terrible business model. Why? Because engineering is a very, very busy course. So you keep having exams every month, every 2 months, some test, something or the other will come up. So the students are so busy that they do not have time to invest in design thinking or public speaking or interview training. And that is when we thought, if we could build an online course and put it out there, whenever somebody has time, whenever somebody thinks they need to take up the course, they can easily go out there, sign up for the course and complete the course. And that is how the idea of Instagram was born. So we thought we could do digital marketing, put the course out there in the LMS, and people will come and buy the course. Why will they buy the course? Because we have been putting out great content whereby I am telling great stories. So they will look at my public speaking skills and then they'll buy the course. And then later we said, it's time to switch from Instagram to YouTube. Why? Because YouTube has compounding growth and Instagram back then it did not have reels. So we said, let's start with YouTube. So we started social media because we wanted to reduce the customer acquisition cost. And the goal was, still is, and will always be to do the same thing, and that is teach people what schools and colleges don't. And we started with communication masterclass in the classroom, went to Instagram, then switched to YouTube, and today Think School is pretty big.
And who are you building Think School for? You yourself mentioned that Think School is making content in English. But whenever you're putting things in English, you're sort of telling that, the kind of content that I'm making is for a certain class, a certain caste, a certain set of people who can have access to this particular language, right? Did that thought never cross your mind?
This actually occurred to me, and I'll tell you why I chose English. First of all, I'm very comfortable with English, more comfortable in English than Hindi, और मेरी हिंदी इतनी sophisticated है नहीं. तो मैं और 3-4 लाइन बोलूँगा, तो you'll not feel good about it. But when I speak in English, you feel like I'm a sophisticated person, so that's just my natural way of speaking. And secondly, bro, I come from Chennai. And if you talk to people in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Kerala, if you ask them, what do you watch on YouTube? I'm talking about the urban people in these states. They'll tell you YouTube is not meant for us. You know why? Because they either have foreign content creators or they have regional. They don't have an Indian teaching content in English which they aspire to learn from. So ये बहुत बड़ा गैप है because हम हिंदी बाय डिफॉल्ट मान के चलते हैं कि पूरे इंडिया को एक्सेस है, पूरी इंडिया समझती है, बट ये साउथ इंडिया नहीं समझती है ब्रो. इनफैक्ट मैंने बीच में एक कम्युनिटी पोस्ट डाला था ये पूछते हुए कि डू यू वांट मी टू मेक वीडियोज इन हिंदी, एंड आई गॉट अ ह्यूज, I saw lengthy comments saying that how can you do this to us? People don't understand that YouTube is not designed for South Indians, and that's when I realized that, oh my God, that we think Hindi is a Masi language and English is not. Whereas English is also a Masi language, it's just that it is giving access to a different segment of the audience. So secondly, the second reason why we chose English is because we want to tap into the South Indian audience, which otherwise does not feel YouTube is designed for them. And the third reason why we chose English is because if I'm going to teach you concepts like inventory model, marketplace model, ecosystem product, standalone product, and this and that, I am anyways going to use a lot of English.
Right.
So we thought we might as well speak in English, by which I'm comfortable, and we can give access to this South Indian audience, which is anyways untapped. So that is the reason why we chose English. And it is a byproduct of all these things that it so happened that we tapped onto the richest segment of Indian audience, which is English speaking, 30% foreign audience, and the audience above the age of 25. Because of that, again, customer acquisition cost went down and we ended up selling more courses. Our sponsorship segments have more value because more affluent people are actually watching our content.
I'll come to the business side of content later on, but I want to first understand, what is the most important bit in making your videos stand out, which is the research bit, which is how you deliver, which is the process of getting all these information that you're getting from. So what is this process for you? How do you make sure that, from the clutter of so many people who probably are into this space of where you are making content, you stand out?
It's a very simple 5-step process, bro. In the first step, my team actually reads 30 odd newspapers to try and find out what does India want to know. And that's where we list down all the topics. This will include all the trending topics, eye-catching topics and stuff like that. जैसे Go First का bankruptcy चल रहा था, तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा trending था वो topic. And after we list down all these topics, in the second step we find out which of these topics has a concept worth addressing. So you will see that Think School's video is basically packaged as a masala content with a clickbaity thumbnail, but inside there is always a concept of business. So we find out which one of these trending topics has a concept worth addressing. जैसे अगर आर्यन खान का कुछ चल रहा है तो ट्विटर पे ट्रेंडिंग बन रहेगा तो भी थिंक स्कूल नहीं बनाएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि उसमें concept worth addressing नहीं है. Then in the third step, it is about simplification and storification. So if there's a finance topic, I usually go to Sushant and I ask him, ki, how do you explain this in the simplest way possible? And then we sit down together and then we brainstorm about the simplification. Then we storify it, that let's say Sushant is a person who's going out to buy an Adani bond and stuff like that. And once we are done with this, then comes the fifth step. And that's where we take feedback from the sample audience. Here, the first thing I do is take it to an expert. So if I'm talking about a finance related topic, I'll take it to Sushant. If I'm talking about a technical concept, like Intel versus NVIDIA, I will take it to a computer science friend of mine who can actually give me a deeper understanding of the same. So once these experts say, yes, this is good to go, and there is no compromise in this content in the race of oversimplification, then we take it to the next step, whereby we show it to an amateur audience. So अगर NVIDIA versus Intel है, तो मैं सुशांत को दिखाऊंगा. अगर फाइनेंस का कंटेंट है, तो मैं वो टेकी वाले दोस्त को दिखाऊंगा कि तुझे ये समझ में आया कि नहीं आया. After this is done, then it goes to my team. They check for the edit, this and that, grammatical mistakes and stuff like that. And then it goes out to the unknown audience, which is the YouTube audience. There again we get feedback. For example, yesterday we posted this video on Intel versus NVIDIA, and we got a lot of techies commenting that you have compromised on the conceptual explanation. Because, and to be very honest, this happened whereby in the race of oversimplification, I compromised on the conceptual explanation of it. So we took down the video. And then we'll repost it 2 to 3 weeks later after doing a thorough research by identifying the gaps in our own research. So this way, we first look at the most interesting topics, then look for the concept worth addressing, then we simplify it, then we show it to an expert audience and an amateur audience, and then we show it to the YouTube audience, take feedback from them, and then do the entire process all over again.
And what's the timeline for this?
This happens anywhere between 3 days to 2 weeks, depending on the difficulty of the topic. For example, I made this video on Singapore. It took me 2 weeks to read that entire book and then present the topic. And after that also, when I showed it to my brother, who was my amateur audience at that time, he said that, "Ye World War kab hua?" Bola, bro.
Right.
And then I said, okay, let's split this video into 2 parts. Part 1, Part 2, Fall of Singapore, Rise of Singapore. And जो भी मैंने उसको समझाया वो Part 2 में था. And then I made like a prequel of it, whereby we spoke about the entire history of Singapore, and then वो online गया. So it takes anywhere between 3 days to 2 weeks, depending on audience feedback and the difficulty of the concept.
Right. Who are these, creators on YouTube who you get influenced with? And, does this happen to you that, you try and copy their style as to how they are doing it or their process, or somewhere you think that, probably because they are doing it well, because they are successful also, let me also try and do that?
Strangely, bro, I've never done that. But what my team does and what I also do is take editing lessons from other creators. Because जब भी आप copy करने जाओगे ना, तो वो evidently दिख जाता है. And what we've followed at Think School is always about solving the problem, even though it means making boring content. We are fine with it. And we have literally broken all the rules of so-called YouTube growth. कि वॉच टाइम लोग बोलते हैं 10 मिनट रखो, 15 मिनट रखो, हमने 27 मिनट कर दिया अडानी हिंडनबर्ग वाले वीडियो में, फिर भी लोगों ने देख लिया. सो वी स्टडी अ लॉट ऑफ यूट्यूबर्स, बट वी डोंट कॉपी देम, वी टेक एडिटिंग लेसन्स फ्रॉम देम. जॉनी हैरिस इज वन सच क्रिएटर जिनसे मैंने बहुत सारा एडिटिंग सीखा. इनफैक्ट माई एडिटर शुभम, ही हैज़ लिटरली सैट डाउन with his notebook, jotting down all the effects that Johnny Harris has used so that he can learn how to apply those effects to Think School videos. Soch by Mohak Mangal, he's got beautiful graphs. So my editing team is deeply inspired by the kind of graphs they make. So yeah, editing में बहुत सारी चीजें सीखते हैं. Content में we just keep our focus to our own content.
As you just said that you have broken all the YouTube myths and whatever people say about watch time and everything, you probably have broken the record of getting or garnering the most number of subscribers in a year also in India in this particular space. How did you do that? That's one question.
Okay.
Were you sure that this is going to happen with the kind of content that you were creating? Because you were creating a content which was in the niche space, and it was not like you're covering everything under the sun, right? And how do you go about, when you're launching that channel, how do you strategize to make this happen?
No strategy, bro. Not at all. I'm not even kidding. The only thing that I knew was that if I'm going to take 10 minutes of somebody's time, I should just make it worthwhile. So our 10th video, Cred, is what went viral. And that is how massive amount of traffic started coming to our channel. But after that, Marlboro went viral. And then Lijjat Papad went viral, and so on and so forth. Multiple videos started going viral because of which the channel exploded. We never knew this was going to happen. In fact, my target was, by the end of 2021, we should have 100,000 subscribers. So if you ask me how it happened, I have no idea. You should ask the subscribers as to how it happened.
When is the shift that you need to make in your career life cycle is important, right? And that's the kind of switch you also made in terms of the content that you were making. You pivoted from business stories, from just making business case studies to getting geopolitical. What if it goes against you? Because, I subscribe you for a certain information value that I derive from you, but now you're giving me something else and I'm not interested in you. And then that's a dead end, right? How do you make that balance?
So first of all, Think School did not make the pivot at all. People think we went from business to geopolitics, but I've been saying this so many times that geopolitical case study is the mother of all business case studies. Yeah. Why is that? That is because if Russia-Ukraine war happened, the cost of sunflower oil shot up. Why? Because more than 80% of sunflower oil came from Russia and Ukraine. When the Russia-Ukraine war started, there was inflation all across the world because we are talking about the third largest producer of oil. When Mohammed bin Salman got annoyed at Biden and he cut the production of oil by 2%, there was inflation in India. And when there is inflation in India, what happens? The cost of raw material shoots up, the gross margins of all these companies goes down, directly affects our stock market, directly affects our business. So if there is a t-shirt company out there selling t-shirts, for them the cost will go up because fertilizer ka cost is also shot up. Why? Because of Russia-Ukraine war. So geopolitical content is literally the mother of business content. It is just that it is packaged as geopolitics. That is the reason why we often misunderstand कि इसका business से लेना देना नहीं है. So we did not make that switch. And like I said, if you go by our algorithm, the most interesting topic during that time was Russia-Ukraine war. So we covered it, but that's not the only reason, because there is also the second reason, which is concept worth addressing. And that's where we were able to define as to how in the UK, after the war started, these people started to implement slab-based rates for their electricity. And that, by the way, is also applied in India to some extent. And then we evolved from it, and then we got better at it. So if you know what is the mistake that UK made, you can directly make a judgment about how India must be shaping its policies. If you look at the evolution of Bangalore and you compare that to what US did with Silicon Valley, you will feel like, yeah, it's a natural progression. You will not feel as if it's something extraordinary. So geopolitical content बहुत सारे purposes solve करता है. पहला purpose ये है कि market का एक broader understanding देता है, जिसकी वजह से हजारों businesses affect होते हैं. लेकिन business case study में तुम सिर्फ एक ही business की बात कर रहे हो. दूसरा ये है that whenever you look at your government policies and then you look at government policies abroad, you can learn from their mistakes and then keep a check on your government over here as to how they are performing.
Right.
And third and most importantly, it helps you understand the economics of the country. If you know that, then you will be able to make more sense out of the headlines. Why did RBI increase the repo rate? You will understand that is directly related to the Russia-Ukraine war. And because of that, what happens? Your home loan interests are increasing. And because of that, your EMI is increasing. And because of that, your purchase power is decreasing. And because of that, the movie theater outside is not making money. So do you realize that geopolitical content is, I don't know why people haven't covered it yet in this angle, that it is literally the mother of all business case studies.
Let's talk about the politics of your content, right? When somebody looks at it from afar, what is the kind of sense do you think people get of the content that you build? Do you see your content being painted in a particular color? Do you see that bias seeping in when you are thinking of for a particular video, researching about it or writing it down? Or do you think that, you somewhat make sure that you're objective in what you're creating with respect to the channel? Because it has implications. Now, you're not reaching out to 100,000 people.
Correct.
You're reaching out to 3 million people who are further sharing it and creating their own biases or images in the mind.
Yeah. So depends on who actually watches our channel and with what frame of mind. For a nationalist, Think School is a great channel because it talks about national policies and it talks about the development of India. For a person who's just going to judge the content via thumbnails, we might come out as a channel that is, a little right-leaning. But for a person who actually watches the video, they will know that Think School talks about only one thing, and that is data. We do not talk about narratives at all. For example, let's take the Karnataka election video. Before Karnataka elections happened, we studied the state government's performance in Karnataka. And we analyzed it using 3 parameters. Ease of business, what the state government has done for the social security of the people, and then we spoke about the finances of the state. What was the reference? RBI's report, which considered the most important parameters and made a judgment on how the state performed. And if you look deeper into those stats, you will see that Think School clearly says that they did well in these segments and they did not do well in these segments. For example, in Gujarat, when it comes to ease of business, Gujarat has done a phenomenal job. But we also pointed out that when it comes to social welfare, Gujarat has not done a good job at all. So it depends on how you see it and when you make the judgment about the channel. If you go by the thumbnails, a little right-leaning. If you're a nationalist, the best channel ever. If you're somebody who watches the channel, it is a channel that thinks for you and helps you understand your nation better. And why do we do that? Is that a pivot? It's not a pivot because government is the godfather in the market, regardless of which market you are in. So if you understand the government's operation, if you understand the government policies, you as an entrepreneur, you'll be able to make better decisions. So if you look at it from the entrepreneur standpoint, we are a company that helps you understand the godfather better.
Which are the countries that did well in your opinion in the last, whatever long you have studied, and you see there is a uniformity between that company and India can catch up?
So India is a very unique case, but I'll tell you the countries that we need to take inspiration from. We need to take inspiration from Israel in the context of building a startup nation. We need to take inspiration from China on how to build a manufacturing hub. And we need to take inspiration from the United States on how to build a tech hub. But how we apply in our context, it is a very complex answer because India is a very, very complex nation. So yeah, but these 3 nations are a good benchmark that we can follow, that we can study and then apply to ourselves.
Ganesh, because you now have a lot of people who are looking up to you, every week when you put out your content, they look forward to learning something from you, right? And in that process, as you mentioned, it can take from 2 to 3 days to a week or 2 weeks time for you to put those videos out. Sometimes what happens is we become very impatient about something that you want to go out, and then you feel that probably I have done a blunder and I've not done justice to the content that I've created, right? How do you keep a balance between these two when, as a creator, you're putting out something? And how much of responsibility do you actually have as a creator who has certain powers now to influence decisions? And are you conscious about it?
Okay, so firstly, how do I respond to that and how do I make sure that I'm doing justice? It's the model that I told you. Give it to the naive audience, give it to the expert audience and see what happens. 99% of the times, if there are any gaps in the content, we will figure it out then and there itself. As a human, you are bound to make errors. But it's about how you react to those errors that's important, and it's how much you understand the responsibility that is there on your shoulders. Like you said, there is a very high degree of responsibility that is there on our shoulders. Because we have to understand that although for us it's just about a YouTube video, on the other side of the screen, there could be a kid who could be making investment decisions based on your videos. There could be a professor who could be preparing for his lecture, for his first lecture, whereby he's going to impress the students using your videos. There could be a person who could be doing tax planning because of watching your content. Not my content, but finance content. So ये बहुत बड़ा responsibility है, bro. And it is very important to have the humility to say that you made a mistake, put it out there, and then correct it as soon as you can. And that's what I strive to do every single day, which is why after the video goes out, we should talk to my friends. I'm constantly scrolling through the comments to check if there is something blunders that I've done so that I can correct it as soon as possible. So yeah, responsibility very high. How do I correct it? I just told you.
Right. And what is the business model, as I asked you, that Think School is moving towards right now or is in right now? You know, we spoke about the customer acquisition throughout the conversation that we were having. What is that in terms of numbers that is looking at right now?
So Think School has multiple business models. One is the content model and the other is the media model. In the content model, it is about we producing YouTube videos, and it is about we putting out courses, we creating newsletters, and then people paying for it. Then when it comes to the media model, because we have such a massive reach, we have a 1-minute sponsored integration, and that's it. That's the business model of Think School.
I don't know if I should ask this, but what is it that Think School is making right now in terms of revenue? And why I'm asking you this is because, you know, a lot of people, they actually make a decision of leaving their jobs, leaving what they are doing, and start creating content while looking at content creators like you. I'm not saying that you are doing anything wrong, right? But their judgment gets clouded with a lot of misinformation that's out there.
True.
Right? So I'm just trying to help them in terms of, I mean, if they are in a particular salary bracket, should they be leaving everything and start creating their content? Is there opportunity in India right now because there is a lot of clutter?
Okay. So as far as what Think School is making, I will also tell you why I keep it confidential. The reason why we keep it confidential is because we don't want our students to watch us because we make money. We want our students to watch us only because of one thing, because we teach. That's all. I've seen a lot of creators who often present their lifestyle as a way to lure their viewers to watch their content. That's not what Think School wants to do. We want to keep a very low profile. We don't want to talk about money. We want to talk about value. Now, as far as the second question is concerned, should people leave their jobs and start content creation? Depends on what niche they are in and what is their caliber. So I've seen a lot of finance content creators who just read Investopedia, who just read the news, and they just make a 1-minute reel out of it, and then they make a lot of money. The bigger question to ask is, in the short term, assuming that you will make a lot of money, how sustainable can this be? And as far as the shelf life of any creator is concerned, it is what, 3 years, 4 years? I don't even know if Think School will be relevant 4 years down the line. So it is important for you to understand why you want to create content. If it is anything other than value, you should not create content. If money is your motivation, you can do a lot of things. When it comes to content, you should all the more not pursue content because of money, because it's very difficult. Eventually, it will come and bite you. Secondly, with regards to the monetary aspect of it, it is extremely variable. And even though you are a finance content creator, you will fail with 2 terrible videos. If they are misleading, Twitter will come and pull you down and you're just done. Similarly, if you're a fashion content creator, on the outside it's very difficult to make money, but you could actually be in the movies if you do it right. So it's about which niche you choose and how good you are, and how do you make the pivot, and how do you change your orbits from time to time, eventually to evolve as an artist. So you could be like a normal Instagrammer and then you can go on to become a famous actress because of your business acumen. Or you could be a finance guy, which is, by the way, you can call it the highest paying niche out there right now on YouTube. And you could not be making any money because you are just terrible at finance.
Yeah.
So ये जितना भी सारा चल रहा है, this is a gold rush. And this will stop. Like I said, 4 to 5 years later, the platform will by default optimize for value, whereby the content creators who don't have a lot of stuff, they will just fade away. Then what will you do? तो ये बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं जिनका जवाब अगर कोई फिगर आउट कर पाता है तो उसको अपना जवाब बाय डिफॉल्ट मिल जाएगा. कोई डायरेक्ट आंसर नहीं है whether it's a yes or no. And if I were to summarize this, why do you want to do content? What value can you bring to the table? Which niche do you think is your niche? How do you think you will evolve 4 or 5 years down the line? And when this entire gold rush settles down, what do you want to be? And do you think your business is sustainable enough? So if they answer all these questions, then I think they'll find the answer.
One more thing that comes with the content creator's life, a successful content creator's life, is the kind of fame or the accolades or the kind of comments that you get to read, and that gives you a kick, right? How do you deal with this?
So I react in different ways based on who tells this to me. So if students come and tell me that Think School is great, I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, that's great. But if somebody like Nikhil Kamath in his podcast says that there is Think School and there are others, that is extremely overwhelming and scary also, because now I know that Nikhil is watching my content. So I have to do justice to that topic such that an extremely intelligent person like Nikhil should be able to find value. And that's where insecurity comes in. Where I'm like, dude, I don't know who's watching out there. In fact, we made a video on ODOP, One District, One Product Yojana, and Yogi Adityanath himself watched our video. And then I was scared that I just hope I did justice to that content. When Nikhil Kamath said this, I was scared. I was happy that he said that, but I was also scared. So it depends on who says it. But the one thing that I can say for sure is that, I've always tried to keep myself away from the public as much as I can, which is why you'll see that the channel name is not Ganesh Prasad, it is Think School. I want the brand, the value to be the center of it and not me. I'm a very private person, which is why you'll not see lifestyle stories on my Instagram. My personal Instagram is also private, where I've got 510 followers. And I try to keep the fame as much as possible away from me so that it never gets to my head. And every time it has got to my head, it has given me insecurity and not confidence or overconfidence. So at the end of the day, it's only about one thing, that dude, if a professor from IIM Bangalore is endorsing your video by playing it on the slideshow, you have to make it worth it. If somebody like Nikhil Kamath or Arjun Vaidya is going to watch your content and tell his friends about it, you have to make it worth it. If there is a kid, 18-year-old kid, who's watching your content on Paytm, you have to make it understandable enough. That is what I feel, which is why every time something like this happens, I tell my team that you know what to do, guys? We got to level up. This is the impact that we're creating. And in order to keep doing that, we have to put our heads down again and make better pieces of content.
Let's sum this conversation up with a few questions that I have, since you are in the space of business, and India is probably being seen as a conducive kind of an environment for businesses and startups to nurture and get more and more in numbers, right? In your opinion, how conducive actually this particular situation is in India right now? How do you see as an early stage startup evolving in the kind of times that we are living in from here?
The situation is very conducive, and this is because of 3 reasons. Number one is the internet. Internet gives you both access to customers as well as access to information. Number 2, we have a capitalistic government which is constantly trying to encourage startups as much as possible, because the government understands the value of startups, because of which it's very conducive. And thirdly, there is lots of money coming in. I mean, 10 years back, if you were to start a food tech startup and raise money from the market, it would have been very difficult. Today, you just go to Bangalore, you will raise $1 million. So right now, I would say is the best time to start a company if you want to raise money. Today is the best time to start a bootstrap company because you've got the internet. So overall, I think this is the time.
Okay, Ganesh, from not doing an MBA to making content mostly about things that people in these B schools learn about, and probably more, because the kind of things that you have said, I have not heard them while I was on campus and talking to a lot of the students who were there in these B schools, to being taught in a class, right? Do you think this journey has been magical for you? Do you think that you could have done things differently to make all of this bigger, better from what it is right now? Or do you have no regrets as to what you are and where you are?
Bro, if I have 3 million subscribers in 2 years, and then I tell you that I've got regrets in life, I would be an idiot. If I told you that I could have done things better, or if I told you that I have done mistakes that I regret, जिसकी वजह से थिंक स्कूल का ग्रोथ स्लो डाउन हो गया है कि और बड़ा बन सकता है कंपनी, then I am a very very greedy person. I am very happy with everything that I've got. I'm very grateful to all the subscribers who have supported me, and I don't think anything could be done any better at Think School. A lot of things could be done better in the future, but in the past, I think इससे better कुछ नहीं हो सकता, bro. Best thing ever, Think School.
All right. Let's finish this conversation with a question that I usually ask all of our guests that are here. You know, the constant changes that we are seeing in the world needs us to develop certain skills within us as well. And since we are a kind of a platform which caters to jobs and careers and skill building and whatnot, what is your advice for these students who are looking at you and watching you and probably are taking inspiration from you? What are the skills that they need to work on? What are the qualities that they need to have in themselves in order to make it big in whatever areas that they are going into?
So there are 3 skills that I think are very important. Number 1 is the skill to do market research and understand what your customers want. Number 2 is the skill of storytelling, so that you can build a great team and tell them great stories to inspire them, teach them about the market, and teach them about the business that you're in. Because when you build a team, everybody needs to have a great acumen just like you do. Everybody needs to work equally hard just like you do, and that can be done using storytelling. And third and most importantly, you should have the humility to keep on reading every single day. If you do that, I think nothing can beat you. Now, as far as the qualities in a person are concerned, I think you have to be brutally honest. You should be open to constructive and brutal feedback, because जब तुम brutally honest होगे तो सामने वाला भी brutally honest होगा, तो तब you should have the capability to take up the criticism and get back to your drawing board and work on it. And most importantly, you should always focus on building a barrier to entry. And that is a quality that very few people actually have, or very few entrepreneurs think this way, that what should you do today to leave your competition behind tomorrow. अगर ये mindset अगर किसी में अगर होता है, तो by default they will push their team way ahead in terms of the preparation, in terms of the product that they're building, in terms of the ecosystem that they're building, because of which they will end up building a successful business. So being brutally honest, taking brutally honest feedback, and having the quality to build a barrier to entry such that you can become the undisputable king in your industry. If that quality is there, I think anybody can go on to build a successful business.
I totally agree with your point on storytelling, Ganesh, and we also understand the importance of it, and that's why we offer a course on All-Uni, which is the certification program in digital marketing. There is a module which teaches you the art of storytelling. Beyond that, you will learn a lot about digital marketing, and we were talking about CAC. You will understand how customers acquisitions work. You will understand a lot about what keeps you floated in a business that you probably are building. So do check out the program. There's a link in the description that's given. Do check about who is actually teaching you these programs and what you can get in return. And just like how you end your videos by giving learning material to students, I am going to ask you a few resources that you refer to in your life that has helped you in life, in terms of learning about yourself, in terms of learning about the outside world that we see it. What is your constant resource pool that you share with people that they can get help from?
So the first resource is TED.com, which has been my go-to resource since I was in my 8th standard. The second resource is a book called Hooked by Neer, which will help you build habit-forming products. It is by far the best book I have ever read on product design. And thirdly, you should read this book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I've been recommending this book for 2.5 years now. It's time Simon gives me a commission, by the way. Why? Because this book will teach you about leadership. And this book will give you simple examples, but will draw such powerful lessons that when you go back to your company, you will know exactly what to do to build a great culture, to build a great team, and most importantly, to build a great company that optimizes for greatness and not just for money. Which is why the book says start with why. What is the purpose of your company? So that's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful conversations, please hit the subscribe button so that you can keep learning more and more every single day. Bye-bye.